New Jersey, of course, reeling from the devastating floods that struck on Monday night, leaving communities underwater and residents scrambling to recover. And as we dive deeper into hurricane season, Mike was saying we're just at the beginning of hurricane season, so we have a lot to be prepared for. Be ready for weather related crises. It's very important. And joining us now is crisis management expert Edward Segal, who is the author of the upcoming book, The Crisis Casebook. Edward, thank you for being patient for us as we talked about. We just found out about Connie Francis. I'm sure you know who she is, and very sad that New Jersey lost her. But good to have you on, especially right now with what just happened in New Jersey. It caught many people off guard. So, based on your expertise, what are the key crisis management lessons we need to pay attention to based on that disaster and be prepared for the future?
Well, thanks for having me on this morning. I appreciate the opportunity. Step one in preparing for any weather-related crisis is to have a crisis management plan in place. And because there are different weather threats, no matter where you live in the country, whether it's floods or snow or whatever the disaster is, it's important to have multiple crisis management plans to deal with those emergencies. And you also have to test those plans. Having a plan and not testing it, frankly, is like having no plan at all. You have to make sure that it'll be working when necessary. And also, you need to have protocols and procedures in place to reliably send warnings and information to people about the weather-related danger. And you have to make sure the public has ways of getting that information and advice. Don't wait is the underlying advice I have. Have a plan in place, make sure it works, and make sure your communications to and from public officials is there. It's always better to be safe than sorry and not to be surprised and be faced with weather-related disasters.
You know, Edward, I lived full time in Florida for 5 years, and I've been part time in Florida for 20 plus years, 25 years. And in Florida, the beginning of hurricane season in the springtime, you every supermarket, every TV station, they put out the hurricane preparedness guide. They don't wait until something happens. But I think in New Jersey, we think, oh, we're in the clear. No, New Jersey gets hit by tons of hurricanes and tropical storms. I'm just surprised that there just is not the level of preparedness, especially for floods, that they have down in Florida. There's just no excuse for it. Keeping bottled water, keeping batteries, having a small generator. You can get a small generator for $100 just to power up your phones and lights and stuff like that. And as you said, just to make sure it works in advance.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons we have to remind people so often is because A, they have an incredibly short attention span, and B, many people are in denial that a disaster or a flood or a snowstorm, whatever it is, could happen to them. And I always tell my crisis management clients that denial is not a strategy. You have to be prepared. Something as simple and basic as a handheld emergency radio, if the electricity goes out, you can power it by cranking it or solar power. So whether you're a business or a family or a government agency, you have to take steps to prepare yourself and prepare for the worst.
I'm glad you said portable radio because I think younger people, people under 30, don't even know what a radio is. They think they'll just use your cell phone, but they forget cell phones receive signals off of cell towers. And if an entire region has no electricity, the cell tower has no electricity. Whereas a radio station can transmit from 50 miles away, and you could listen to emergency information on a portable radio, especially AM, from 50, 60, 70 miles away, and you can have that with you. So don't rely on just your cell phone. Have that plan B. I'm so glad you said that. A cheap AM radio. $10. Keep it in the house with the emergency bottled water and maybe a few days of prepackaged food that doesn't have to be heated. Uh, so it's just so important. Now, what gets me, North Plainfield, New Jersey, had 2 weeks ago, two people drowned rather, right by the Cedar Creek. Followed 2 weeks later, just the other night, two people swept into Cedar Creek and drowned. What does that tell us about government officials? Maybe I don't mean to put the blame on people so early, but why weren't there signs everywhere? Don't park here during floods. We have a flood coming today. Don't be here with your car.
Well, that's a great point because it's important that if you know an area is susceptible to a flood or other related dangers, post signs. Keep those warnings up there. Unfortunately, that was one of the sad lessons from the deadly floods in Texas earlier this month, where although the area had a history of flooding and deaths from those floodings, there was no warning signs, there was no sirens, there was no efforts to let people know ahead of time about the danger. You know, when the water is rising above you, that's too late. You have to be
Mhm.
prepared. There's a saying that if you see water, turn around, don't drown. So whether you're walking in an area or especially tragically, as you mentioned, these instances of people driving through deep water, turn around, don't drown. It's better to be safe than sorry.
And it only takes 6 inches of water to move your car. 6 inches. That's all it takes for your car to lose contact with the road, and you could be swept away. And at that point, you're SOL. That's it. You are at nature's control. So now, in the context of all the flooding we had in New Jersey, you talk about not waiting to sound the alarm about a developing crisis. So how can officials balance urgency and then you at the same time don't want to cry that the sky is falling and cry wolf? You want to be able to get the message out when it really matters. And I know that our meteorologist, Mike Favetta, deals with this all the time, puts out the warnings, etc. So, how can we get the officials to do the same?
I think the answer is to run a series on a regular basis, worst case scenarios, practice drills. What would happen if, fill in the blank for the disaster or the flood or whatever, and what would you do and how would you do it and how would you respond? And also importantly, what is the trigger? What is going to happen that will activate the alarm, that will require you to tell the public what's happening and give advice? And you do that by practice, practice, practice. Whether you're a government agency, a family, or a business, you have to have those plans in place, know what's going to trigger those plans, who's going to communicate to the public or tell the family, what are the, it's a long list, Grant, but
Mhm.
that's part and parcel of what all the different provisions that you have in a crisis management plan. In fact, I'll make this offer to your viewers. If you'd like a free crisis management plan template that I make available, you can go to my website at crisiscasebook.com or send me an email to crisis, uh, make it to Edward Segal Communications at gmail.com. Send me your email, and I'll be glad to send you this free crisis management template that you can customize for your family, your business, or even your government agency.
I love it. That's great advice. And this is the time we're not even at the peak of hurricane season yet. We're just coming into it. So the next, I guess September is like the middle point, and then there are lots of storms that follow. I always remind people that back in the 90s, Hurricane Andrew A, so it was the first hurricane of the season, happened in October. October, that was the first hurricane back in 1992 or 93, whatever year that hit. And it caused hundreds of deaths. I mean, you just can't take it for granted. Edward Segal, author of the upcoming book, you see it right behind it. Well, on the wide shot, we saw it there. Author of the upcoming book, The Crisis Casebook. Get it when it comes out. Thank you for joining us. And there we go. We have it on the screen there. Edward Segal, Crisis Casebook. You are an emergency management expert. You're just the guy to tell us about this. We appreciate you coming on. Please come on again, Edward. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
You bet. Have a good day, sir.